Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened every day. Yep, we're going to do it every single day. Enlightenment is not somewhere you get to, it is something we are. And today we're following up on our conversation last week with Edward Miller, who works with the concepts of oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian forgiveness practice, but it's so much more than that. And we're going to explore how that works in our life in order to live enlightened every single day. So last week, I talked with Edward Miller, who is a big fan of the Ho'oponopono ancient Hawaiian forgiveness practice. And he explained it really well. So I'm not going to go all the way into that. Please watch that last episode. I'll have it in the show notes. But the Hawaiian forgiveness technique really is a type of mantra. And the 4 phrases are, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And many people like myself thought that it was sort of a forgiveness technique, that it was for us to be able to forgive other people. And of course, that is very powerful when we need to forgive other people, when we need to forgive ourselves, when we need to forgive an event that is happening to us that we have taken offense with. We can feel ourselves reacting to something. And when we have something like the Ho'oponopono technique or practice, we can start to relieve that tension and the anxiety and the reaction so that we become, as is said in Ho'oponopono, we go back to zero. We cleanse or clean, which is like scrubbing our thoughts so that we release the judgments, the attachments, the reactions, the resistance, the comparisons, the idea of resistance that things should be different than exactly what they are. And so when we have a practice like Ho'oponopono, it brings us back to the concept of, in the Hawaiian technique, zero. But we could say in Buddhism, for example, it is the void or nothingness or emptiness. We could say, as I do, it is the all that there is. We could say it's the unmanifested. It's the place of spaciousness that is infinite possibilities. Jesus used the phrase, the kingdom of heaven. So there's lots of ways to interpret or to, if you come from whatever your background is, relating it to zero or to these other phrases that we've used. And there's more. The Tao, we could say. And so it's before words. We're going back to before thought, before words. And why? I talk about this a lot because it is becoming so powerful in my life. Going to our pure conscious awareness, to presence, as Eckhart Tolle would say. When we're resting in that open, spacious space, that is where inspiration comes from. So what we do with the Ho'oponopono, and we'll talk about other ways of doing this, we are taking thoughts as they come up in our daily life, and we are erasing them, because every thought that comes from thinking, that sounds funny, right? Every thought that comes from our finite mind or from the ego is a thought that is coming from what is already known. It is it is almost never, I'm going to say, inspired. It is not new. It doesn't make us feel new. I think scientists say that we have, what, 60,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are repetitive. So we're repeating thoughts, and those repetitive thoughts have created patterns and conditions in our life, and they're always limiting. And how do I come to that idea that they're always limiting? Because anything that is this pattern or this conditioning, a previous thought, is based on what we previously knew. It's based on our previous history, even things that happened to us when we were 2 or 20. And so we're using that information that we had when we were 2 or 20, and we're redefining what is happening right now. We're seeing with um, glasses, cloudy glasses. So we can never see things really as they are. We can never really be in the present moment when we're having these thoughts continuously run in the background or the foreground. Right? Doesn't that make sense that if we're thinking about how things are, we're not actually experiencing things, situations, events as they are, because we have this conditioning. We're seeing through the glasses, the rose-colored glasses, great, but sometimes they're the dark, cloudy glasses, not so great. But what I'm going to suggest is neither of those, the good rose-colored glasses or the bad, the cloudy, dark glasses, neither of those are serving us. Because ultimately, life is meant to experience itself presently, in the present moment. That's where we start to live our life as children. Watch children, watch them in the backyard, in the playground, watch them on the beach or in the mountains. They pick up a leaf and are fascinated. They don't want to know if it's dirty. They don't want to know if it's got mold or something growing on it. That makes it even more interesting. Like, what is that fuzzy stuff? What is the caterpillar or the bug crawling on it? That's more fascinating. It strikes awe in the hearts of children. Why? Because it is fascinating. The world is fascinating when we allow ourselves to be like the little children. It is Zen mind, beginner's mind. It is awesome. There's no other way to describe it. And we all have those moments. Sometimes it's when we see something new. Sometimes it's seeing something obviously new, like a special effect in a movie, or a magic trick we've never seen before, or someone says something that just strikes us. It's like, I've never heard it put that way before. And we stop, everything stops, and we're open because we feel the newness, the aliveness of that, whatever it is, situation, information, entertainment. And it's the way we are meant to feel all the time. But I'm not suggesting that we walk around in awe and wonder. It's not that exotic. And I won't say it's that exciting, except if you compare it to the everyday, low level, constant chatter of our mind that is redundant and dragging us down a little bit, drags me down a little bit for sure, then that is exciting. But it isn't exciting in that sense of walking around like, it's not like that. It's simple, but it's amazing and wonderful. And it is freedom. It's freedom from thought and from thinking. So let's tie this back in. We did last week as well to the Ho'oponopono. It's this idea that we can say, I love you. And as Edward explains, we are loving that innocent self, the self at zero. We could call that the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, the Atman. We could call it the Tao. It's that space of zero. I love you. I love that I know who I am in my essential nature, my essential self. I love you. And then we say, I'm sorry that I have created this thought that is separating me from you. And it's oneness. So we're not separated, but we're acknowledging the thought as this piece of information that we may not need right now. Please forgive me. Forgive me for allowing this interference, if you will, this static in between the purity of the essence of who I am. And then thank you is, I let go. It's done. I release. It's the moment I think it, I say it, I feel it. It's done. Thank you. Back to zero, back to source, back to self with a capital S. And this is a beautiful technique. Edward explained how it worked for him. I've explained how the idea of forgiving others, forgiving situations, forgiving myself has shifted the reality around all of that. But today, I invite you to take it a step further. And that is my belief in that it is every thought that comes from the random, the thinking mind, the egoic mind. Every thought we want to just clear. It's not ours. It's not ours to own. It's usually not even accurate. It's usually, like I said, a repetitive thought from the past that is part of our conditioning. So we can take each thought and bless it. Just, I love you. I don't know where you've come from. I'm not sure if you came from when I was 2, from my coach who said I wasn't good enough, from my teacher who said I wasn't smart enough, from the person who told me I wasn't enough, let's say. And I'm not sure where you come from, but I recognize you here. You're running in my mind, and I bless you. I don't need you anymore. You know, in Ho'oponopono, it would be, please forgive me for indulging in this self-doubt, this lack, this limitation. I I recognize that the wholeness of my being is right here, right now, and I don't need any of the thoughts that are limiting and lack and limitation. And so I blast that thought and I release it. I let you go. Go back. I don't know where you came from, but go back. You are free. You are free and I am free. I rest in the open, empty space. And I've talked many times, why is it important to be in that open, empty space? That's where inspired thought, inspiration comes from. And yes, inspiration comes as thought, but we can feel the difference as we begin to practice letting go of the repetitive thoughts, the random thoughts that are just sort of like judging the day, the weather, the friend, the clothes, our own body, judging ourselves, judging the situation, comparing when we are attached to something. I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. When we're resisting things like the diagnosis, the bill, the roof that leaks, why does this have to happen? Those are the thoughts. Just, ah, I love you, finite mind. I love you, ego. I know you want to protect me. I bless you. And I don't know where you came from, this fear that I don't have the supply to manage the bill or manage the surprise or manage the diagnosis or manage um, the um, the tension in my relationship. But I let you go. I let the thought that I can't do those things, I let them go. I bless you. Thank you. You've served me, but I don't know where you came from, but I let you go. I release you. You're free and I'm free. And that's kind of how I felt about the Ho'oponopono when I read it. It all of a sudden made sense to me that it's not about forgiveness or forgiving a person per se. Again, powerful for that. It's for anything and everything. And before I understood Ho'oponopono, I had this technique. Can I call it a technique? And I guess it is because, and I can call it a practice because the random thoughts, the chattering mind, the insistent, repetitive thoughts were the norm. So, in order to interrupt that, I had to find a way to pay attention because it's like I used to drive. Tell me if you've ever done this. I used to drive somewhere and not remember driving my 2-ton vehicle down the road and how I got there because it was automatic. And I couldn't tell you necessarily what I was thinking while I just went blank, right? So we have to pay attention. We have to come to the place where I can observe, witness the thoughts as they come. And I have a podcast episode on being the observer. You can go look at that. And it's the idea that we can train ourselves, teach ourselves to become aware. And as a thought comes up, oh, wow, is that serving me? Is that an inspired thought? Is it coming from that infinite possibility? Is it worthy of living my life in this moment now? Is it serving this self, capital S, who I am in this moment? Or is it the thoughts of judgments and attachments resisting and reaction? Or is it a beautiful response to, a friend's questioning or an activity that I'm involved in? We begin to be able to make the distinction, and we begin to be able to isolate, or we see that thought rise. The observer, sees the thought rise and says, "Oh, uh, that's repetitive. That doesn't serve right now who I am." And that's when we say, "Oh, I love you. I love you. I bless you. I don't know where you came from, but I release you now." And my vision, and I invite you to find your own, I do believe in my heart, it's not the words. So you can use Ho'oponopono because it is an ancient practice, and those words are infused by our ancestors with, this power to bring us back to zero or to no thingness, to infinite possibility. And those are beautiful words. But before I knew that, I used the words I just explained. And for me, it stopped becoming words and it was symbols. Actually, it started as symbols. I forgot. I forget how my mind, body, spirit works. Mine started as symbols, and I saw these caterpillars, and they weren't the cute ones. I think there are some cute caterpillars, but these were not cute. They were really ugly, kind of scary looking, wormy things. And every thought, and we'll get into that in a minute. I'll try to remember to go back to every thought, every thought. And I was like, "Oh, I love you. I love you. Thank you. I recognize you. And I don't know where you came from. I bless you." And as I blessed this thought, I could see it transform. And I could see it just morphing into a butterfly. And as I released it, it would fly away. So that is more of the imagery and the feeling that I had that something not so pleasant was within me, but as I released it in love and in blessing it, it flew away as a beautiful butterfly, and I could recognize how it has served me up until now. And again, I'm pretty amazed at it brought me back to zero. And there are times I shared this. I think I shared it last week, or in another podcast, that sometimes when my ego is just ramped up and going crazy, I couldn't take each individual thought because they were coming up so fast, and they were, I couldn't rest in the spacious awareness because another one would come and another one, another one. And I had this image of just pouring gasoline all over everything, lit it on fire, and whew, butterflies just came out of the flames. It was like the phoenix rising or something. And so any um, visualizations that come to you of this idea of transformation and release is the same idea behind Ho'oponopono. And it's the idea of getting back to source or self or spirit, to nothingness, to infinite possibilities. So it's especially good when we're working on a uh, any kind of problem to resolve, if we're experiencing lack or limitation, if we're experiencing um, not knowing, not having clarity around an event or something that's happening, to just go into the space, clearing all our previous thoughts. We can take them lovingly one by one and just, I love you, I bless you, but you haven't helped me to have this repetitive thought, this previous thought that there's not enough good to go around, there's not enough supply, money to go around, that the economy is not working, that the real estate market is too high for me to get a new home or a home, my first home. Whatever it is, we have these ideas, and they're usually from the media, from our parents, from our well-meaning friends, from our friend groups. Whatever it is, we take it, look at it. I bless you, I love you, thank you for being in my life, and I am returning to zero right now. I have no need for you right now, so I bless you and release you. I release you and let you go, and you are free and I am free. And I rest in that space of infinite possibility in zero. And I allow the possibility that is right for me right now to come in to my beingness, to allow me to be aware of it. And that's what I call the thoughts that come from that space. They're inspired in spirit. And we become enthused, which is another word for entheos, in God, in spirit. And so there's an energy behind the action that we are called to take, picking up the phone, going down a street, attending a group or a meeting that we've never been to before, that we were, kind of hesitant or judgy on before. Now we're kind of, oh, well, I am inspired to make that phone call, or to go to that meeting, or to call this person in my past that I haven't even thought of in so long, and it feels good. That's how we know it's inspired. It doesn't feel like we have to do it. It doesn't feel like there's resistance or judgment. And if there is, we clear that too. We cleanse that too. We take it into our hearts and we just say, "Oh, The resistance. Yes, you are a friend of mine from a long time. I recognize you. I bless you. I don't need you anymore. Don't know where you came from, but I release you back into the nothingness. And and you are free and I am free. And the butterfly, this beautiful butterfly, flies away gently, easily. And so we can just do that with every thought and every situation. And it's so powerful. And the reason I say we take every thought, because so many of us, I actually got questions on this. I get questions on this a lot. Every thought? Aren't we supposed to be thinking good thoughts? And I wrote in my book, yes, if you're going to have thoughts, one of the first steps is to change your thoughts. That's a valid transition. It's a valid practice when you have a negative thought to turn it into a positive, to see what you can do with it, to go into this space that would feel better than that negative thought. So, of course, that is a practice, and it's a beautiful one because it's leading us to the space of what I'm talking about, which is letting go all thought. Because even the good thoughts, even the thoughts about, oh, isn't this a beautiful day? Oh, I am so blessed to have this home, and I am so grateful to have this beautiful car. Look at my car. It's so amazing. I feel so good driving my car. In other words, the mind is still going. The mind is still on automatic. That mind is the finite mind. That mind is probably still even the ego. We think it's a good thought, but it's the ego saying, I'm better than I was. I'm better than my neighbor. I'm better than my sibling. It's so subtle. It gets very, very subtle. And like I said, it's a valid transition. I'm not knocking it. And to really bless those thoughts and let them go allows us to be present with what is right now. And what is right now is the experience of a beautiful day, of a beautiful temperature on our skin. It's not the commentary on it, it's the being, the aliveness of it. We're in it. There's no boundary between my my skin and the sun or the rain or the coolness, the breeze. There's no boundary. There's just isness. And that's the joy that is beyond understanding. It's the peace that is beyond understanding. And it's because our mind isn't trying to understand it. We're living it. When we're living it, there's no need to comment on it. That is freedom and peace and joy. And as things arise, let's say you walk out and I live in North Florida with lots of hurricane winds and fun storms and nor'easters and things going on. There's a tree falling in your driveway and you can't get your car out of the driveway and go to work, and you don't have a chainsaw handy. you know the because you're present in the moment, that idea, the remembrance of who to call or what to do is right there. And here's the kicker, even if it's not, you can Google that, right? You know that. The anxiety isn't there. The worry isn't there. The judgment or resistance isn't there. So you're just being with the fallen tree in the driveway, doing what needs to be done in peace. How cool is that? I mean, what else is there but living life in peace without anxiety? And my My little mantra lately is just take no thought, take no thought. The thought rises, and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't need that." Take no thought. And it's just a beautiful, peaceful, loving, kind way to live. And just when we spend a few moments every day in that space, and then we add more moments. And a lot of times we'll do sort of this little practice in the morning, or as we're getting the coffee ready, or we're getting, because we know we're protected in our home. We know where the coffee is. We know where everything is. We can watch the thoughts as they come up. And when we walk out the door, and there is a limb in the driveway, where now we're gone, right? We're just in thought until we get to work, and we're like, oh man, I kind of forgot my little practice here. Take a moment in the car. Take 3 minutes and do the practice again in the car. And then a workmate comes up, and an associate comes up and starts telling you about the project that's moved up a week. And your mind goes, and you're caught up again, and you think, oh, lunchtime. And then you're like, oh, I haven't done that practice. Take 3 minutes. 3 minutes to just observe the thoughts about the food, the workplace, the associates, what's going on, and allow yourself to cleanse and to clean. And this practice just then becomes a way of life, and it becomes the way to living enlightened every single day. And even when we think it's hard to remember all day long, that's just another thought that needs to be loved. It's like, I don't know where I get this idea that this is hard, but I love you. I don't know where you came from, but I love you. Thank you. And I release you. I let you go. You are free, and I am free. And we live enlightened every day. We have so much time to laugh, to love, to be present in the moment, to love our life just as it is, and to live our passion, because it never matters what we do. It's where we're coming from as we do anything. That's what I invite you to do this week. Let me know your thoughts. You can find out more about these ideas, these concepts, in my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. It's on Amazon now. And on my website, elizabethcantey.com. There are some more podcast episodes you can watch. Of course, they're right here, right where you are listening or watching this. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful for you, and grateful for the opportunity to share these ideas with wonderful like minds. I love you. I bless you. I hope you spend this week laughing, loving, and living enlightened every day.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Cantey. Integrating your spirit, mind, and body. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.